Today we fired up not one, but two grills to settle an age-old debate. Pellets or charcoal? Which one can smoke a better rib? On one side, we've got the convenience and precision of the Pit Boss Pellet Grill. On the other, we have the classic smoky charm of the Weber Kettle. We'll put these two head to head to see which ribs win on looks, flavor, and tenderness. If you're ready for mouth-watering barbecue and an epic grilling showdown, stick around. You're not going to want to miss this. But wait, not so fast. Before we prep these ribs, let me tell you what the process will be. To get even and fair results with both the Weber and the Pit Boss, I'm going to make sure that all the variables are the same. Now we're going to shoot for around 3 hours at 300 degrees. I'm doing that in the Weber Kettle with the snake method, and I sprinkled on some applewood smoking chips. And in the Pit Boss, you just push the button, set it to 300, and let it run. As far as fuel on the pellet grill goes, I'll be using applewood pellets from Pit Boss. And in order to monitor the ambient temperature in both the pellet grill and the Weber Kettle to make sure that we're consistent, I will be using my Inkbird with 2 ambient temperature probes. They just clip right onto the grill grate, right in front of or right next to the meat. This way we can get an accurate reading at what the temperature is where the meat sits. We're gonna kind of just set it and forget it. I'm just gonna throw them right on the grate, 300 degrees, leave it alone until it's probe tender. Once both racks are probe tender, I will apply some barbecue sauce to both racks, spread it out with a nice basting brush, and we'll let it cook for another 15-20 minutes until that sauce tacks up, and we'll be able to look and see how they came out. Whether you want to use smoking blocks or smoking chips, both will work fine. I typically sprinkle them on the outside of the snake. Same would go for the wood blocks. I would just place them on the outside. But the idea is that we're going to actually get that smoke flavor from the wood. As far as our pellet grill goes, this is a lot more simple than the Weber. Press that on button. Set your temperature. We're going 300. Let it warm up. Alrighty, let's get into a rib prep here. Now I have 3 racks of St. Louis spare ribs. I got this from Costco. I'll only be cooking 2 today. I'm gonna freeze the other one. Slice these open. I honestly won't do much trimming unless there's anything crazy dangling off. I just don't want any wiggly bits to get burnt up on either grill. There's the first rack. There's our second rack. So it actually looks like they did a decent job trimming these up already. There's not many dangly bits left over, no crazy fat left over. So we're gonna jump right into these. I'm gonna flip these over. Now I'm actually gonna keep the membrane on these ribs, but what I am going to do is I'm gonna score it in a crisscross pattern. I actually learned this trick from a fellow creator, Mad Scientist Barbecue. And I tried it for the first time. I was a little skeptical, and then I tried it, and hey, you know what? It worked out really good. It's much easier. It's hard to remove the membrane on these St. Louis style ribs. Of course, it can be done. I've done it dozens of times. But you know what? This is just something different, and I like it. Now, when it comes to a binder, you don't really have to use one. You can use mustard, oil, or no binder at all. But I'm just going to squirt on a tiny bit of oil, spread it out, use a glove for easy cleanup. And of course, I'm seasoning this today with Killer Hogs Barbecue Rib Rub. This is actually one of my favorite rib rubs. It is super delicious, and I'm a big fan of Malcolm Reed. Makes some great content, great food. He's taught me a lot by watching his videos. We got a nice, generous coating on there. Just pat that in. And I actually have these ribs on a rack. This way, when I flip these over, and while we let our seasonings sweat into the meat, it'll kind of keep it up and off of the cold metal down there, hopefully retaining a little bit more of the seasoning when we actually go to place this on the grill. Add a little bit of oil. Spread this out. Generous coating. Now, I've tried tons of rib rubs before too, actually. I've made my own. I found this other one at my local Tractor Supply, and it's actually Miranda Lambert's. It's really good. But you know what? You can never go wrong with Killer Hogs. Don't forget to season the sides, if it didn't get hit indirectly already. Right. So we'll leave these alone while our grills finish heating up, and I'll be back with you at the grills in about 15 minutes. All right, guys, the Pit Boss has reached 300. The snake has caught in our Weber. Let's add in our ambient temperature probes and see if we have to do any vent adjustments on the Weber before throwing in the ribs. When doing the snake method on the Weber, you want the meat to be across from the direct heat source. So that means I will be placing my temperature probe somewhere around here, right next to where our ribs will go. Shut this lid and let that warm up before we see if we have to do any vent adjustments. All right, so I'm gonna stick my Inkbird right here. Nice and easy. Open this up. My ribs are gonna be right at the front here. So let me place this one right here. We'll let these both sit for about 5 minutes. We'll look back and make sure that both are running on a solid 300. Both grills are up to temp. Let's throw these on and get the party started. Alrighty, the ribs are in. We'll leave these alone for about another 45 minutes. Then we'll come back out, make sure the temperatures are good. Now it's been an hour. Both grills have been running at a constant 300. Let's take a look at the Pit Boss. Nice. As you can see here, it's starting to get some nice color, cooking pretty evenly. Let's take a look at the Weber. Wow, beautiful color on these ones. Now, as you can see, the heat source is over here and it's getting pretty close to our ribs. So rather than actually picking up the meat and moving it, I'm just gonna turn this grate and use the help of some tongs because this is gonna be pretty hot. Spin it. Remember, we wanna keep it directly across from the heat source on the snake method. I'm gonna make sure my vents are good and replace the lid with the vent over the meat. And I said this before and I'll say it again. This allows the smoke to drag up and over the meat. We'll check back in another hour. All right, we're about 2 hours in. Let's take a look at these. Nice. Nice color. They're looking super juicy. Now I would be spritzing these, but I actually broke my spritz bottle. So we're going basic here. Let's check out the Weber. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful color here. The meat is starting to pull away from the bones, but my heat source is getting a little bit close to this end. You can tell it's starting to get a little overcooked, so I think it's time to flip this grate around again. We may have to move our temperature probe. Give this a turn. Place this in front of the meat here. Keep our lid over our ribs. We'll give these two another 45 minutes or so before we check for probe tenderness. Alrighty, we're 2 hours and 45 minutes in. These are looking beautiful. These are definitely probe tender. Slides right in with ease, no resistance. So let's take our sauce. Sweet Baby Ray's is what I'm using. It's all down to your preference. People give a lot of slack for using Sweet Baby Ray's, but you know what? It's a really good all-purpose barbecue sauce. I love it. So just generous squirt on here. Spread this out with the basting brush. Okay. Let's go check on the Weber. The Weber ribs look great. It has a nice mahogany color. This end did get a little bit overdone, but you know what? That's no problem. Let's get this temperature probe out of here. We won't be needing it anymore. These are definitely probe tender. Slides right in and out with no resistance. So let's coat these ones too. Spread this out. Okay, we'll let these sit for about 15 minutes. We'll pull them off, bring them inside because it is now dark outside, and we'll slice them up. Alrighty, these are all done. Let's pull them off go inside to the cutting board. Okay. These smell absolutely delicious. 3 hours has passed. Here's our 2 rack of ribs. Now this one here is actually from the pellet smoker, and this one is from the Weber. The one from the Weber has a much deeper mahogany color. I actually like the look of it a lot more, but who knows? Let's slice into it. Let's see what the inside looks like. I'm gonna set this one to the side for a second and slice into the pellet smoker rack first. An easy way to slice these is to actually flip this over. This way you can see where the bones are. So you can get a nice slice right in between the bones. It's like butter. Now I don't like my ribs fall off the bone. I like a little bit of a bite to them. So I'm hoping that I achieved that here. And that looks good. There's a bit of a smoke ring on the top. It does look delicious. So we'll set this one to the side. Let's grab a rack from the Weber. Flip this one over. A little bit more of a char on the bottom here. Definitely more of a smoky smell off the one from the Weber. For the reveal, that is what I'm talking about right there. That is a beautiful looking rib. Nice, consistent smoke ring on both the top and the bottom. I think for looks, the Weber has taken the cake. Again, side by side here, you can see that the smoke has penetrated a bit more on the Weber than it did the pellet grill, but they both came out looking delicious. All right, with the both of these done, we're gonna go in on the pellet grill rib first. Delicious. The smoke flavor is very subtle, but that flavor from the seasoning is just phenomenal. Let's give the Weber rib a try. My face is already a mess. This is the one I'm excited for. I can already tell it definitely did take in a lot more smoke. I can smell it right off the bat. Let's dig in. This one definitely takes the cake, but the smoke flavor is definitely there, a lot more than in the pellet grill rib. Perfect. So we finished and I've came to a decision. These were both the same as far as tenderness goes, but you know what? The flavor and the look of the Weber Kettle rib is much more advanced than on the pellet grill rib. Now don't get me wrong, the pellet grill has its purposes. The temperature control was a lot easier on the Pit Boss. So if you're someone who likes to just set it and forget it, you don't want to mess with air vents and try to control airflow for your temperature, then the pellet grill is the way to go. If you have a little bit more time on your hands, and you want to chill out, drink a beer, manage the fire, the Weber Kettle is the way to go. Now I can eat both of these ribs all day, but as far as this test goes, what's better, the charcoal or the pellet? They're both delicious, but this rib definitely tops this one. Going in for a third bite.